How's it going, y'all? This is McFrostyBoy, and today we're going to be doing a weapon highlight for our daily segment. Specifically, we're going to be looking at one of my favorite weapons of the game that I talk about a lot, the Hemlock. The reason why I've selected this weapon to work with is because, well, I find myself repeatedly having to tell people why the Hemlock is so good, and I honestly kind of get sick of having to repeat myself, so yeah. Now, the big reason why the Hemlock is so powerful, even in spite of the recent nerf to bring its bullet damage down to 20 per shot on the body, the reason why it is such a powerful weapon is because of the ease with which its recoil can be controlled. With no attachments whatsoever, right from this distance, I can fire 2 bursts for 120 damage, right? 2 bursts worth of and that's like against a target that's like standing still. A target that's standing still, you know, potentially maybe a controller player, like that's inside of a death box, or an enemy that is like fighting someone, but they're at like 90 degrees to you. So like this guy, right? If he was like shooting at like someone like over here, I think, please, yeah, like over here, right? Like he would strafe like back and forth, side to side like this. But from my perspective, right, he would be basically standing still. So like scenarios like where people like are generally like not moving or not moving very fast do come up, and they come up very often. And the Hemlock is particularly proficient at punishing those things, right? Now, like I said, 120 damage like on the body for hitting all 3 shots, or for hitting all 3 shots off of 2 bursts, right? Now by comparison, right, like a Craver on the body hits for 145. So it's only a 25 damage difference between, you know, this Hemlock here with like, you know, like that like is going to be able to do that off of 2 bursts nearly non-reactively, and the Craver, which is actually purely a non-reactable because like it does all the damage all at once. It gets even worse actually, like when you go ahead and you put a 3x onto the Hemlock, right? And so then all of a sudden, like, you know, like being able to do that, right? See, like that was like almost like 125 damage, and like just like think in your head of like trying to like react like to that happening to you, right? Like you're standing still or whatever, or like, you know, like maybe like you've got like a sniper rifle, right? And you're aiming like over here or something, and you're like strafing back and forth, but you're barely moving because you've got a sniper rifle, and sniper rifles don't really make you move or allow you to move very much when you're aim down sights. Same with like the Spitfire or something like that, right? Like in that window of time, like you would take that, like you would take almost as much damage as you would from like the Craver shooting you on the body, and you wouldn't be able to react to it. And all it would take is a gun that's been picked up off the ground and a 3x sight. Like that's all it takes. There's so few weapons, and like I can do it from this far away. How far is that? That's 63 meters away. So like, and like that's like pretty easy, like without me like having to practice the recoil pattern very much, in spite of the fact that I haven't like really been like putting in the work to like keep it in my muscle memory. So it's like, that's like how powerful this weapon is. Like it's got that kind of reach, right? With almost no attachments, and provides the enemy like with very little time to react. On top of that, right, like if we're like gonna like, we should like also like take a second to like look at the hipfire, right? Like that's like ridiculous. Like again, like almost as non-reactable as like, I don't want to say it's like as not like as fast as like a massive shot, because it's not, but it's like almost as fast as I would say like maybe 2 shots out of the EVA 8, several shots out of the Volt or an R99. And like this is again just like a white gun that was like that you picked up off the ground, right? For 120 damage, again nearly non-reactable, like 1, 2, and like you can just step back into cover, right? Like imagine, like I don't know, like you're doing something like this, 1, 2, and you step back into cover. I guess 2, step back into cover. I don't know why I keep ADSing. 1, 2. I don't know. I feel like it's like every time I step around cover, like I feel like I've like built some weird like muscle memory there. I don't know. But it's like the speed, like right, like with which that can like happen to you is so fast, and like this hipfire is like so precise. Like, you know, I'm like still able to like somewhat reliably like hit like 2 shots out of each burst from this distance, which is like, again, each of these bullets are like worth 20 damage. If you compare that to the flatline is the other weapon, right? That does 20 damage per shot. Now, it's doing a fire, like in order to do 120 damage, right? I'm going to fire these 6 bullets, and they're going to fire much more slowly, and the flatline, as we all know, has a much more challenging recoil pattern to control, right? Like, it may be fully automatic, but like my ability to like keep it like centered and on target is, I mean, like I just don't know the recoil pattern. It like jumps around left and right very like a lot. So it's like just comparing these two weapons that have like very comparable damage to bullets, right? Like what like you're consistently able to do with the Hemlock from distance as compared to the Flatline are just like completely on two different like levels. And so this is like sort of like my frustration like with the Hemlock, like when the rebound, like with its recent rebalancing, because really it's not its damage profile that's the problem, right? Like knocking 6 damage off total off the burst is not the issue. So instead of taking 66 or a total of 132 over 2 non-reactable bursts, like you only take 120, right? Like that 12 extra HP, really, like that's not the problem with the Hemlock. The problem with the Hemlock is like the firing action, like because you can fire those 2 bursts so quickly, and the ease with which the recoil can be controlled. Like I don't even like think about like the single fire mode, like unless I'm at extreme distances, because like again, like it's like just over the course of a game, like just like remembering like the muscle memory to like control like the recoil of the Hemlock, especially once you start to pick up like any color of barrels, like it's just not hard, and so like it's almost all vertical. So yeah, that's like the Hemlock. So right now, like if you see a Hemlock on the ground, like you should take it. It is an extremely powerful weapon at the mid-range and also at longer ranges. There's very few weapons like that will compare to it, like straight off the ground with almost any optic on it. Like it's just a super powerful option, or just the iron sights regardless. From hip firing range at very close range, it's like a serviceable option, like similar, like I think in a similar vein to like how the R301 can work at super close ranges. It's not your go-to, right? If you had a Mastiff in your back pocket, you'd use that first, but it's still like a viable option. So if you see a Hemlock, you should take it. It is a really powerful gun right now, and I don't think it's going to get nerfed anytime soon. Yeah, I think it goes best with a 3x or a 2.4 sight, and it just like provides you with like so much more reach, so much more capability, right? Like being able to do this amount of damage reliably from this far away, like you can't do that like with an R99 or a Wingman or a Mastiff or a Volt. Like none of those guns can do that, right? And so this is like why, like, like the Hemlock paired with one of those kinds of weapons, like just gives you so much versatility. You have this extremely lethal reach from longer ranges, and then you can switch to your R99 or your Volt or your Mastiff at close range. And if you really need it, you can use the Hemlock hipfire to finish after using your ideal close range primary. So that wraps it up. Like I said, pick up the Hemlock. Also, I did not realize, but I'm Lord Greystow, whoever that is. Yeah. Also, I realized I've not been doing the plug, which I don't like doing, but it's necessary. So, if you like the videos, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Upvotes on Reddit always help. And yeah, appreciate you all. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.